And if folks can't hear, I'll ask everyone who's speaking to come up and speak to the group. But if nobody's complaining about that. All right, any other questions?
Yes, where is the site soil report? Because that's part of the building code ordinance.
And that is part of the geotech, and that has to be supplied prior to
Okay. So the planning board doesn't get to see that information?
it's not done until post approval. Geotech's not done until post approval.
Okay, so who would be reviewing and approving that? I'm asking the planning board.
Say, what's the question again?
Who would be reviewing and approving the geotech testing?
At this point, I would ask your question as the applicant, and if there's anything that's not answered to your satisfaction, then we'll bring that up to the board.
Okay. A lot of my other questions are the actual construction vehicles, the weights, the trips. As you saw when we were pointing out the condition of post office road being a dirt road and having big machinery and being at the edge and having it fall into those crevices.
The easy way to deal with that is a condition from the planning board that says should there be any damage, the applicant is responsible for restoring to as near as condition as was prior.
Okay.
So, I mean, we don't have to go into all the specifics if there's damage.
I'm
We're
a
responding.
taxpayer and we pay a lot of money to get our roads fixed, so
No, I'm agreeing.
that's what I'm saying. I'm like, if they get damaged, who's gonna pay to get it
I'm
fixed?
agreeing with you. We would be saying that's not an atypical condition.
Okay,
So we're happy to put that in.
all right, those were all my questions.
Thank you. Other questions from the audience? I see a couple folks who weren't at the site. Did you all have any questions? Thank you for being here. Okay, questions from the board?
So I have a general question. I'm hearing a lot of concern from neighbors about the specifics of what's being done. And I think what I'm hearing from Verizon is we can't give you specifics because we don't figure those out till after we know we can do it. Is that because of the timeline it takes to get the information, the expense?
No, and most of it, we could show up, almost everything's been asked for here. It's the geo that waits till the end.
Right.
And the geo, we're gonna have to take down trees, we're gonna have to get in vehicles there. And we've got the exact location, which I want to talk about in a minute, the exact location. So all that's done post approval. And prior to building.
Okay. So
Okay,
it's
so we
site
have to
work,
show it to the top. But
right?
it's in between the two, and the town said, this is the spot, okay?
Yeah.
Then we do all that work, and we bring it back, and it's done by the licensed PE. And then if we have a town engineer reviews it, or the code office, to make sure it meets code, which it will. So, and there could be a condition that, reviewed that work, but it's prior to the permitting.
Because I think typically, and I think what Becky's pointing out is the site plan review ordinance is looking for the specifics, like the building plans, not a theoretical building plan. So I understand Becky's concern. I also see your point, and I'm just wondering if we could find something in the middle where if you could give us the exact range of options and be like, it will be no more than this or this on either end, in terms of how much site work you would have to do, that might allay some of the concerns I'm hearing from abutters. Like, I've heard you say, most likely no blasting, which I think is a really good thing. If you can set those parameters a little more exactly, like, it's hard to feel reassured if we're just hearing, well, we don't know until after you tell us it's okay. So
I think that the only issue, I'm here, correct me if I'm wrong, with what would come out of the geotech would be the extremely rare instance, should there be blasting. I think that's what I'm hearing. And if that,
should there be what?
should there be blasting?
Yeah.
Okay? And if that's the case, we know how rare that is, that we would be comfortable with a condition that says that should the geotech, for some reason, say the condition that it requires some kind of blasting, we have to come back to this. That way we can then proceed under the normal course, do it, post approval. And if it turns out the way we're telling you that Should be in blasting. Then we'll set, and if not, we're back to this board. So the approval is contingent upon a geotech that comes back clean with respect to blasting. That should solve that concern.
Okay,
And that's really, I think, the only concern that is, that gets put out post-approval. The rest we're gonna have, and I'll talk about that in a minute, about location and getting a survey out there.
Yeah.
Is one of the things that, I think that's the only really kind of question that people are concerned about.
yeah, I think the option of having some conditions might allay some fears and, because it's hard for this board to say thumbs up when we don't have what you're actually gonna do.
Sure. So I think those are two already good conditions of raise. One is that there's no blasting up on back to the board.
Yep.
And if there is any road damage, that there's a condition subsequent that the applicant must restore it.
Mhm.
The proper recouple language, the proper standards.
That road, by the way, is posted for a large part of the year, so you should be aware of that in your construction
The
schedule.
road is posted.
Yeah, like February through April, May, I think. Yeah, it depends on the weather. It's
Oh, okay, yeah,
for trucks.
yeah, we have, we have to observe those.
Yeah.
Whatever goes on.
Thank you, good, on board, other board questions, Susan, did you have? Other board questions?
This is a little different topic, but one of the things that towns often are concerned about is the removal of a structure like this that doesn't have any purpose.
Yeah.
I know that you have a statement from the CEO of Carbon Tower saying it would be removed. Is that something that could be included? How would that be enforceable to try to sell?
Yeah, this is what we do for that. First of all, it's a condition to be removed. But people also, sometimes if you require a removal bond, we'll provide a removal bond. I'll tell you, I can't tell you thousands of these over 40 years. I can count one hand the number of times it's been done. And the other thing that should give you comfort is, even if these are all obsolete and all the companies disappear tomorrow, the scrap value of the metal is worth more than the cost to take it down. So it's coming down. If they were not being used, it would come down. But if you feel more comfortable with bond, I mean, it's just not an issue for you.
Other questions from the board? Oh, Dick, go ahead.
I have a question that's not relevant to topics today, but I'm wondering what the ice storage do if it on the antennas in terms of two ways. One is the load itself onto the tower, and what the second way would be what happens, what's the effect of the RF emission if there's ice blocking that particular thing.
Yeah, I never heard of a problem with transmission, with transmission. In terms of ice loading, we can get you those exact specifications. Again, often there's a town engineer looks them over, but they all meet standards, and I mentioned you can let them know what their standards are.
Yeah, when they do the structural analysis on the structure itself, they apply ice and rain flows to the structure to make sure it can withstand those type of.
Would that be true if you had additional carriers put up on top of it as well, so the total risk of?
Yeah, and and don't hold me for the standard. There's a standard I heard before for some other ones. Don't know if it's this one. But one of the engineers said once that particular tower was rated to be coated with a 1/2 inch of radial ice. That means 1/2 inch of everything covered in ice and 80-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, so if for that to come down, you've got a pretty serious catastrophe in the area. And the only towers that I know that's come down, I know of two. One was manufacturing defect, and these are, tens and tens and tens of thousands. The only other one I'm aware of is one that down south that got hit by a flying barn during a hurricane. In fact, the whole place is devastated, this picture shows, except for 3 cell towers which are standing, and the 4th one that came down got hit by a flying barn. So these are built to really tough standards for a lot of reasons. And we're happy to supply that information, but I want to make sure you're comfortable with it, and it's really not an issue. The structural integrity is not an issue.
until the effect on the RF emissions, is that's something that can be addressed at a different time?
The isolating,
Yes.
yeah, we'll supply the isolating standards
And the effect on emissions.
and the definition, oh, sure.
All right, any other questions from the board? Jeff?
Well, one of the concerns, I think also was just, what gets flagged. So the tower is that location, at what point close to the tower are people not going to be able to get the benefit of the
Yeah.
tower?
The RF engineer had talked about that before, and you have to basically be on site.
Okay, so where we were on that lot, outside of that,
Outside of it should be good. That's what he testified to at the last meeting. Same question was asked.
okay,
April?
So if we're gonna go back to the site, you guys are gonna be able to flag it, basically, so we can see the fence perimeter and the location of the tower. Demi had mentioned, did you see a balloon?
Yeah.
It would be nice to have a visual on height. I think you said it would be a third of the way up the larger tower. So I can kind of see that, but it would be helpful, I think, for the board to stand like here, a nearby historic building. Can we see it by how much?
Can you see the bottom third of that tower now?
No.
So that's the question. Go anywhere you want to go. And if you can see the bottom third of that tower, then you can see ours.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's rare, you do a balloon when there's no other frame of reference. You've got a frame of reference. If you can't see that tower, you're definitely not seeing ours. If you can't see below half of it, you can't see ours.
Yeah.
And you have to get down to the third. So where do you see the bottom third of that tower?
I don't know, it's a little hard for me to just like look at a tower and be like, this is the bottom third.
Well, you can mark it, it's red and white. And right away.
yeah, I'm supposed to think of lights whether. If you could see the bottoms of the lights or not, it's kind of tough.
Okay,
Yeah, we
like
could
if we have some visual point of reference, because I'm like looking up at it, I'd be like, I think that's a third, but I can't really tell. So if we can see it, and then I can like walk from this historic building to the site and kind of get a sense of, okay, now you're here, you start to see it. I think that might help us get a better handle on
Yeah.
like the visual impact.
You said when they have right for this, you know?
There was a set of lights, they were about a third of that.
Yeah, we can find out where those lights are and they get you a sense, so those lights are half.
It doesn't have to be a balloon, but if it's something that I as a
Well, you got lights.
person can see, you know, that would be helpful.
All right, other questions from the board? Seeing none, Demi, Demi, did you have a question? Go ahead.
Because, so there was reference of the concerns of beyond the blasting needed, under the rare terms, the blasting is needed, but a lot of the concerns are the RW, right of way. I would like, I would like to know, maybe have a land use lawyer look at the easement, of the Hamiltons and see, is it a right of way for access? Is it a right of way for construction? What is the type of easement that it is? And then, of course, when we're going through the site, I would like to know what the parameters of right of way are. Because as you see from the survey, the entirety of the right of way that would be used for construction is in the Hamilton's property. And so I would like to know if they needed to remove a tree that was on the boundary of that right of way, what is the boundary of the right of way, and would they need the Hamilton's approval to remove that tree? Because it just seems like a gray area right now that doesn't have much clearance or protection for the homeowners of that right of way, that easement. Considering how much traffic there's going to be through that.
I'm not speaking for the board, but just my initial reaction is it's probably not a planning board issue. That's something between landowner and the owner of the right of way. But we can talk about that, but that's just my.
Does the applicant know how wide the right of way is?
We've supplied the easement and the right, yes, we do. It's on, it's been supplied.
20 feet.
It's 20, so the right of way is 20 feet wide. Okay,
So it's a 20-foot wide right of way for all legal purposes from the post office for.
And I'll tell you, it's like the in-house lawyers who do the due diligence. Now we don't know. Approve this site, and that's part of the due diligence is the access easement. Have made a mistake to the degree that they don't have access to the site. That's their job, to make sure that we have access to the site. We have provided census to be used by us for any legal purpose.
I understand, I just, the right of way and the deed wasn't given to with the application until we asked for it. So, I mean. Yes, I would personally go to the Hamiltons and try to. Connect them with the land use lawyer just to make sure that they know exactly what the extent of use is with this right of way. I understand just from my past and land uses that there's different kind of easements, so I was just. Looking into that, does the applicant plan on staging or keeping any permanent construction materials on the right of way?
No.
So it's just going to be used for access?
For about 3 weeks to get all that work we talked about, and then after that, the tower shows up for 3 days.
I mean, during construction, is that right of way going to be used for staging or any construction equipment or materials?
Not on the Hamilton's portion of it, but possibly on the landlord's portion of it.
Okay, is the. Sorry, there's one blank. All right. That's it, so there, it's a 20-foot across, and I just asked that to be marked on the next site plan visit.
Becky, did you have a question?
I just wanted to say that I agree with, what April said, especially because the planning board's, one of the positions is preserving the rural character of the island. Is for us to have an actual visual, not of the existing antenna, because it is, as we were, it's way up, you know, up on the hill. Where this is a lower site, and you can go from Post Office Road, for a lot of our residents that travel it daily. And right here is our the historic district, especially in the winter months when there is no leaf tree coverage. So I would just like the planning board to take that into consideration just to give us a visual of that.
All right, I think,
I do have a question, has the made for the preservation gotten back to you after they made a mistake of not identifying these two buildings?
Yes, we did get a letter back, and we are now sending it through what the proper channels are, which is a deeper review. And also it's gonna say, can it be seen from here? If it can't be seen from here, that ends it. If it can be seen from here, then what's the alternative? Is there an alternative site where this can go? We have found an alternative site. So in fact, even if it could be seen, and it's not going to be seen from here, even if it could be seen, that isn't stoppable. That doesn't mean you go forward and prove it. What it means is if you've got an alternate site, you can weigh that when picking between sites. You can't just deny this site.
Okay, understood. So going forward, is there going to be, are we agreed there's going to be a visual representation?
No, we certainly.
Okay, so how can the board delineate whether it can or cannot be seen?
Well, I guess part of it is if you could see it, then what? What's your alternate site that you're balancing it against?
So I understand we're just talking about this application.
Mhm.
And there needs to be a visual representation. So I understand you just said you're not agreeing to it, but the board is asking for it.
I don't know if the board's asked, but I haven't heard that. I've heard you ask. I haven't heard the board ask.
April just.
I haven't heard the board ask. So we're gonna go through in a minute. I told
Yeah,
all the things that you're looking for. Because I'd like to get a complete list.
and, I want to clarify, I expect we'll be able to see it. As we get, maybe not from here, but as we walk towards it. I don't expect it to be invisible. It is a 135-foot pole. I just want to know how visible and sort of from what points. So I'm requesting either the applicant provide a site, some kind of site marker, so we can really visualize that. unless, we can have confirmation that there is already a very good site marker that I could see from, let's say, the town hall, that would help me visualize that, but it's not clear to me yet from what Jason is saying that those lights are gonna help a lot.
Yeah.
No, and they're not on during the day, so I guess my question is, Demi says a balloon, and I'm like, oh, that's easy, you just put a balloon up there, but maybe it's more complex. They're probably different
I
kinds.
asked the applicant during the site walk whether they have done a blue before, and they have said yes.
But typically what that's doing is it's being factored against an alternate site. It's we're trying to decide which of these alternate sites.
Have you not been in conversation with alternate sites?
We have had none that have been we have been directed by the town to move this to.
To do what?
Could you say that again?
Yeah. Yes, what happens is we have had proposed site, we've scrubbed the area. Okay, we have not found a better site. The burden of proof then shifts to the municipality. The municipality comes back and says, hey, we think you ought to go to site X. We like it better. We will move it. We're required to move it if it works from an RF standpoint, without unreasonable cost and reasonable delay. But if there's not an alternate site that we're being directed to look at, which works without reasonable cost and reasonable delay, it's constructible. Then we have to stay with the original site, and then the law requires to stay with the original site, because otherwise it's deemed effective prohibition of an essential service.
So what you're saying is that you would only erect a visual balloon to represent the height of the tower if we were comparing it to another site. However, we've been talking to other sites, but we are in an application for this site alone and not to be considered or talking about other sites. So how is that possible if we can't compare it to another site? Because
What's the other site you want to compare it to?
you said you were discussing other sites of interest, you had other sites of interest.
We have no other viable sites right now. We have looked at other sites, we've done a site selection analysis, if you've reviewed it. We have talked to one other person in the last month, and that didn't go anywhere. So we have no other viable sites to compare this to as of today.
What does not go anywhere mean
They declined to lease it to us in market terms.
under market?
All right, I think we're at the point where we want to share with the applicant, our requests for more information, but I think maybe we've already covered that. Is there anything from the board that people you've shared? Go ahead.
So I sent the board members in response to John's question, and Demi, I think you didn't copy Demi because she's recused, I'm assuming. I replied to John's email, the very detailed look at section 5.2b, the terrible section of our site plan review ordinance that lists out several steps, really condensed into a paragraph. My understanding of that section, as I've been trying to help the select board come up with forms and stuff, is that the applicant, there's this whole waiver part that we have not done. And it's important. And I think Becky's brought it up too. So the applicant goes through, which Robert has already done, the application requirements and says either we meet this or it doesn't apply, or I request a waiver for whatever reason. All well and good. If you read 5.2b carefully though, it says application requirements, criterion, and standards. And Robert, I brought this up at the last meeting. That's what we haven't seen, and it's a whole nother table.
Yeah, that's not my list. I want to talk about. I just, if I could reiterate everything I think you're asking for. So I did give it to you my words, make sure I've got it down correctly.
Sure.
But I do that, I think that I'm was gonna address that from the last meeting, so I'm just gonna see if I can answer it right now. Okay, based on today's visit, number one is to stake the site and stake the fence area. And we'll do that. I don't know how quickly we can get up there. But we were using GPS today. And actually, the GPS can be off by 10, 12 feet. It can be off. So we'll go up there and stake it as to exactly where it is, because I'm not sure that string was in the right place, which was throwing us off. Having said that, we have permission from the landlord to move it around. So I guess I'd like to start by saying, we'll stake it. Where do you want, right? So if it was a little bit over to that clearing and the board said, we'd like to move it a little bit back to where in that area, we can move it. So we don't care where it is. So we'll stake precisely what's shown on the site. But when people go out there, when the board goes out there, if the board says, you know, can you shift it this way or shift it that, we've got a little bit of play. Okay, so we're not wed to anyone's spot. I just wanted to point that out. We are going to ask for this to be expedited. Actually, we should have done it before this meeting. We're going to ask for it to be expedited so it's in play, and we'd like to get it a number of days before the meeting on September 9th. So people can go out at their leisure. And we don't have to have a meeting if it's okay with the chair. Once we get, I'll get you some dates as soon as we get back to Newbury time and they get a survey crew out. We'll stake it, let you know when it's staked, hopefully a few days before the meeting, so people will just go and look at it on their own. Would that be acceptable?
Well, just to be clear, we don't want people going out there from, we'll schedule another site.
Okay.
And go through the same process that we went to schedule this one. Why don't you all give me, your timeline as to when you expect that area to be staked and finished? And, my suggestion would be to obviously stake the boundaries, stake where the, pole is going to be.
Mhm.
And if you can, give us a stake footprint of where the generator is going to be, and anything that you're bringing to that land that you're going to leave there. I'd like to have stake remarks so we could see on the ground what you're doing.
Okay. If possible, and again, I'll get back as soon as we talk tomorrow to do very survey. But it's possible we set it up like we did this time before the 9th for 5 o'clock at that meeting, and then come right here at the 6 o'clock September 9th meeting. But
You give me your dates
Okay.
and I'll send it from there.
April has to give public
I'm
notice.
sorry.
Doesn't the town clerk have to give 2 public notices on the newspaper for?
For the site.
Not for the site, for the hearing, for the site visits, it's just a regular, reasonable, but I usually aim for 5 to 7 days.
Okay. But I had for item number 2. Before the clue on the 9th was to, you're pointing that I've been working on the list since last Tuesday night. So I'm gonna get you something in the next day or two, with those additional sections. And it can be very tedious to go through, so it's up to the board, but just in the interest of time, if you want, I would go through all that for one designee. It looks like April gets stuck with this, but go through all of it with her, and she would identify those which either she thought was missing or had a question. And maybe we could limit it, otherwise it would probably be about 4 or 5 hours. I mean, it's a lot to go through. So
I think we're gonna be looking at the waivers primarily.
Yeah, primarily the waivers, so that.
Right, because there's 2 votes. The vote on waivers first, and then the vote on completeness, which says, okay, you provided all these materials, are they adequate? Right, but the waiver vote is first. So when you give us, you'll have a huge checklist, and I have made one myself. I know how bad it is. But you'll go through it, and we don't have to go through every single item. We're gonna look where you requested waivers in your reasoning, and that'll be that vote
But
and or meeting.
But somebody from the town should check us, and particularly it's staff who would check us, so that we're not spending hours and hours. So if I can go through that with you, if I can send a Zoom with you, go through it.
I'm uneasy because I'm on the board.
Okay,
I'm a little
Yeah.
bit of a weird,
We don't have staff.
okay.
we don't really have that.
They're looking at the staff.
All right, then I would just identify those in the waiver, I guess, if any of the board members, and I'll resend it, because we'll have those additional sections. We think we've completed it, we're showing you where it's been submitted. If anybody disagrees, we prefer to be told ahead of time, and then we'll identify the ones with waivers.
Yep.
It's probably the best we can do that.
Yeah, you may have already done this, and I haven't looked at it, but what would be great is if, board members could have, as soon as reasonably possible, a worksheet, showing, you know, what the requirements are,
It's
what you're trying to waive, and what you're providing.
Yeah.
Respect to the price.
That's what we already,
Okay,
Yeah.
you've already got that.
yeah, we've already submitted it, except that at the last meeting, April raised 2 more sections.
Right.
So we're working on those to amend that, so you've got the full package, and I hope to have it to you in days, not, long for the night.
Right, and obviously we need to get that out to the parties, we'll get it out to the community, on that. We need something to use as a guideline worksheet to start checking the boxes, to go through it. And take the votes to pay for the strike, so. And never follow along with this, know what the problem. Okay.
All right, does the board have any issues with ingress egress? I agree that the easement is an issue between us and the landowner. I don't intend to submit anything on that unless the board wants something. So item number 3 then would be, it's been asked, can we show the drop zone on the survey? We're gonna have to do that, the board wants that,
The what?
the drops.
Oh, yeah, I understand.
Okay, so we'll show that on the survey, that's item number 3. We don't need to supply this, we talk about some conditions, but we don't need to supply anything, we can talk about that at a later date, but just for the record. We talked about road damage, no blasting, no removal lot, and isolating information. Action items on a condition, so item 4 would be, we're gonna provide some isolating standards and conditions, if they was asked for.
Yeah, whatever you anticipate, I'm anticipating gonna be those conditions. You know, we're not prepared to share this with you right now because we haven't gone through the process as a board. But I'm anticipating there'll be a number of conditions.
I'm focusing right now on what we need to provide you. So number 4 would be ice floating standards. I think that was something that was asked for. Do you want to say, yes, we'll get your ice floating standards, and I think there's a sub B to that. Is there any effect on the transmissions? And we'll get an answer on that. It's kind of 4A and B.
Going back to the road for the egress, and access and exit. We don't have the abutting landowner who owns that land or the right of way. So an issue was raised with I'll defer to the board, but I don't, if we don't have anything from the abutting landowner raising an objection or an issue regarding that, I don't think that's our responsibility. If the board has to review that, let's talk about it, think about it. Fine. Keep in mind, we're not making any final decisions tonight, so we're deciding tonight whether or not the application is complete. Then we're going to have a public hearing within 30 days of that decision. And then within 30 days, start the public hearing before we make a final decision. So we're a couple months away from doing it. And that'll be a public hearing for us.
Right. So just again,
yeah, with respect to the balloon thing, we've got a lot of good minds here, a lot of creative people. I'm thinking there's some way to either have somebody climb up on a tree. We know people do that, but I'm not suggesting anybody climb up on a tree and put a big red tape or whatever saying this is the height.
I don't think we can do that if it's higher than the tree. So I think we're left with either A, identifying something on the existing tower, or B, having a balloon, but the balloon doesn't stay up. There's wind conditions, and it loses its, so it's up for a few hours when we do put one up.
Do you have access to the tower material? Can you get somewhere to put something on that tower?
We could get it, I can't remember, is it painted red and white?
It's like that. It's orange.
Yeah, if it's orange and white, we can find out which section it is. We can mark off where we are. You can figure out where we are. So if you look at it, if there's 40-foot sections, and we know we're at the 100-foot level. If you can see orange, yellow, orange, then you know you're 20-foot level. We'll see if there's something that's on the tower that identifies the height that we're at.
Okay.
And if you can't see that, you're not gonna see this.
Okay, well, let's be creative and thoughtful about it. What we need is something that we would be able to see, if we're looking at the tower. So, yellow, orange, something up at that altitude that we can look at. At that level.
Well, I don't think that we're gonna climb the tower, there's all kinds of issues with that. So then we would, at that point, we would do, if you're not comfortable with what's on the tower now, then could fly a balloon for a number of hours.
Yeah.
But it can't stay up because it's gonna come down.
Right. Well, I think maybe if we figure out a site visit time and that's the best or only option to really visualize it, then we'll just do it at the site visit. And I mean, to your point about comparing two properties, I mean, I think it would be helpful to me, just in looking at this one property, just to sort of judge how impactful it is. From what I can tell, we probably won't see it much. But I'm just curious and want to know how much.
And if we do run that, I mean, I think the point is not on site, right? Because people are not on site except us. The idea is when it's up there, to go to a neighbor's house, drive the roads around it, come back here.
Right.
So my suggestion is we find a time, a morning of such and such, where we run the balloon. It's not so much seeing it on site. And let people know, and they can drive around, they can look, they can go up to the site, does that work?
That sounds perfect. And like personally, what I would do is what I did today. I would come here from the town hall and walk down there, and from here. I'm mostly concerned about these historic buildings and how much we're gonna see it, and I wanna know how much Dick Tannins, the Hamiltons are gonna see it from their homes, and just make sure it's not impacting. I think we're responsible for the rural character and the residential nature and blah, blah, blah. So not expected perfection, not expected to not see it anywhere. I just want to kind of get a sense of how much and where.
And I want to point this out too, that you may see true red dots. I want to just explain this when I get another chance to do it. So typically what happens is he'll take a first balloon and run it, in this case, maybe 200 feet.
Mhm.
And the reason is, then they have the other one at our level, say, on 30 feet or 250 feet, whatever it is. People may see that, say, oh my God, you can see that truck, it's not ours. They do that for wind conditions, because otherwise you just have one balloon, okay? They do that to help stabilize, number one.
Yeah.
And number two is, when they're looking around, well, I think it's in that direction. Somebody else, I think it's in that direction. But then you see that balloon way up there, and then you look down, you can't see the second balloon.
Hmm.
You know, it's hidden. I just want to make it clear, because we had people come back and say, oh my God, I had no idea it was that tall, and I was looking at the lead balloon, which
You need two different colored balloons. You need like a blue one and a red one.
yeah, which we can do, yeah,
There you go.
but people don't understand that, right? And they tell somebody else it's gonna be a balloon, all these people go out, they don't know that.
Yeah.
So
Facebook blows up. I know.
I just want to point that out, if different engineers see different, if there's no lead balloon, then that'll be an issue, but often that's gonna happen.
One thought that I have is, where the pole is going to go, where the tower is gonna go, is a couple of trees that are all gonna be gone. So floating this balloon, we don't wanna do it with little trees that are gonna be gone, we'll probably wanna put it on the edge of next to, right?
We are with the understanding that because there's trees in the way and there's branches, sometimes that balloon may be over 15 feet from where the tower is. It makes no difference if that is a concern, that it's far back now, but if it's 15 feet over, I mean, it's.
I'm just saying, if you put it in the middle of the trees that are there now, those trees are gonna block the view to a certain extent. So, and those trees are gonna go.
I see what you're saying, yeah,
So we need to put it someplace which is going to mirror exactly what you can, create space at that height. So I'm suggesting the edge of the clearing.
I like that, yeah. Yeah,
I would say the balloons are on a string, so they kind of have to be, the balloons are tied to a string, so you need to have a clear area floated anyway. So it would have to be in that open.
okay, all right, thank those 5 items, is there anything else?
Not now.
Can I ask a question?
Hold on. Anything else that you all?
No, we want to get you all the information you need and just get the record done.
Okay, all right, so just to close this part of it out, you all are gonna give us your target dates, we're gonna look at our calendars and see what we can make happen. I think, in good faith, everybody's part, like try to get this new site that is done before the night. But if we can't, we can't, sort of problem. And it was wonderful that we did this. This is why we had site visits, so we've got lots of questions. We need more information, so appreciate everybody's efforts to this point. I look forward to finishing it out. Okay. Let me add a little bit. Any other questions? Yeah, I mean,
Could you just go over again what you're gonna be marking out on the next site visit?
Yeah, what we will do is we'll have the surveyors mark out the limits of the fence, the centroid of the tower.
Mhm.
And again, I don't think it matters, happy to show it, it doesn't matter. Nobody can possibly see the generator or the equipment shelter or the equipment cabinet, or we're happy to show where that would be as well. Within a few feet, right? If it's on the ledge, we'll mark as best we can where those wires are.
It might just be useful for the abutter to know where the generator is going to be for the
Sure.
noise. And hope they're able to make the next meeting. What John mentioned boundary, and I didn't know if he was referencing property boundary. Because the location of the perimeter of the fence that I was referencing is based off of the property boundary. So are you going to?
No, it's not, it's based off of the land and launch, and that,
Oh, I was just referring to a
yeah, I know.
setback.
And I suspect, but I don't know if that string is in the right spot.
Okay.
But we just don't know, so we're gonna get the spares out, they use lat launch, they're gonna find the pins. We'll do what surveyors do, they're gonna find the exact spot here, but again. If it's not exactly where the town likes to say, can't you just ship this whole thing over 20 feet, just tell us. But sooner rather than later, there's engineers getting something unit back.
Yeah, and that might have unknown consequences, because it looks from the topo that it's cited for a certain reason. But moving it in a certain way might have different, anyways, can I ask that the board to request that the property boundary be marked out by the applicant? Between the Hamiltons and the owner of the land, Philbrook?
you're doing a survey.
We're doing a survey of that spot, is that a big deal? I mean, we're not gonna do the entire
No,
parent parcel, we can show where it is across the road maybe in that spot.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would just like to know, like, where the right of way is from the Hamilton's property to the construction site, where the, Philbrook's property.
What would that help you know? And the reason I ask it is, it seems there's an objection. If you can tell me the objection is, maybe we can address it. So I mean, if that property line's 10 feet this way or 10 feet that way, what's your concern with the Hamilton's property line?
You know, just like anything, just make sure that the setbacks are correct. To see where it's sited in relation to the abutter's property and whether it's properly sited. Just like we're marking out everything else to know exactly where it is.
When you say properly sited, meaning in case they want to move over a little bit or,
Well, if it's not, you know, in accordance with the West Rhode Island setbacks, 20-foot side, 40-foot back line, 20-foot front. So just that we can see,
Yeah.
like,
yeah, and we have the flexibility to move it.
right,
Yeah.
no, I'm just saying right now, it's just saying, yeah. Where it's presented, it is 20 feet, which is, you know, pretty some to the setback. And then I also asked if it's not too much of a burden, is it, you know, easy to mark out the trees that are to be removed?
You will see within the fenced area, anything within the fenced area will be removed. Is that a fair statement? Okay, anything within the fence, there's going to mark each one. You're gonna see red tape running where the fence line is. Anything inside of that will be removed because it's for the foundation of the house. Anything outside of it at this point will not be removed, but we are checking to make sure if there's anything that needs to be removed and will be on the landlord's property. Most likely, then, you know, we'll flag that as well, but we don't know of any other trees that need to be removed.
If there were to be tree removal needed for any reason that was not on the landowner's property, what would that look like for the process outside of the ROW? For trees and limbs?
Not sure I found like how they take down a tree.
Talk about a condition.
Oh, yeah, and there's under, like, you know, there's trees that are on the Hamilton's property that are growing above. The
If there's some scrub limb that's gonna hit a truck and they take it out, they've got the right to ingress and egress of the vehicle, and we'll deal with it with the Hamiltons. That's between us and the Hamiltons.
Okay,
All right, any other questions? Okay, thank you all very, very much. Thank you for your attention, for your patience. Thank you to the applicant, thank you to the party, thank you to the board.
Thank you.
See you again.
we are really.
Stop recording.